Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamu alaikum dear students. Welcome to our next lecture. आज के लेक्चर में हम चैप्टर 2 देखेंगे दैट इज़ रिलेटेड टू द सुपरवाइज्ड लर्निंग. सुपरवाइज्ड लर्निंग क्या होती है, किस तरह से मशीन लर्निंग में हम उसको इस्तेमाल करते हैं, इसकी डिटेल को हम आज डिस्कस करेंगे. इन मशीन लर्निंग मॉडल्स, machine learning model learns or enhances its experience by looking at data instances जिनको हम examples भी कहते हैं. For example, if we have to perform a task of two class classification, for example these two classes are the apple and the orange, so first time we will give an apple to our model, it will understand it that it's an apple. Second time we will give its an orange, it will understand that it is orange, and as we keep on increasing the number of apples and oranges, system would be able to gain more and more experience, and in this context it will get expert to identify the apples and oranges even there are variances or changes in their shapes or colors. Examples: let we want to learn a class family car. The data set consists of pictures of cars and each car is labeled as family car and not family car. This is the same example that we have seen already in previous lecture. We may have in our data the positive examples, the cars which are labeled as family cars, or negative examples, the cars which are labeled as not family cars. And what is the learning in this context? Learning refers to finding the features, descriptions which are associated with the family car and filter out the features and descriptions which are associated with not family car, right. So learning of these features which are associated with the class of interest, extracting of these features is called the learning process. The learning is also known as knowledge extraction. For example, if we look at this example, our algorithm may find that something which is less sapphire, that is apple, something which has red color, that is apple, something which has some leaves associated with it, that is apple, and a more sapphire thing which has yellow color or orange color is an orange. So again there is the set of features which are extracted by our learning algorithm or the model in order to decide in future whether the new instance which is given to it is belongs to class 1 or class 2. The learning, let we decide what the family car class is, learned based on the two features. In our experiment, in our previous example we are using about the family cars, we have only two features, the price and the engine power. Input features are price and engine power, and input feature must be represented as numerical values. This is very interesting. In our data set we may have the features which may be categorical or non-numerical. If this is the case, we need to convert those values into numerical values. How do we convert? That is our scheme that we have to decide. Model, the discriminator function or mathematical function that we can call as a discriminator function we will build is known as class recognizer. There may be many ways to build a discriminator function, that may be linear, non-linear, quadratic, complex or whatever. In this figure each data point corresponds to one example car. For example, we have a car, this is taken as negative example, it means that this is not a family car, and this example is taken as positive example, it means that it is a family car. So we may need to have some kind of mathematical formula which gives us this circle, this boundary. If some function, some model or discriminator function gives us this boundary, we call that it is a classifier that distinguishes two classes of cars, family cars, here this is the set of family cars, and this is not family cars. or it distinguishes between positive and negative examples. Model representation. How do we represent a model? That is very important. Let me take this example. We have data, that is cars, and each car is represented by two features, price and engine power. So, x1 is one example which consists of price and engine power, and x2 is another example which again consists of price and engine power. So, in our data set X, this is a vector basically, it consists of two examples, x1 and x2, and we have the corresponding labels 1 or 0. If x is positive example, we will assign it a 1. If it is a negative example, we will assign it a 0. For example, we can have this kind of, here we can assign this 1 and 0. It will show that the first example x1 is a positive example and x2 is a negative example. Each car is represented as a tuple xt, yt. Xt represents the data. Again, this data is represented by two features, price 1 and engine power 1, and yt, it would be either 0 or 1, right. So, this is further explained over here, price, PR for price, and eng power mean engine power. These are the two features, we represent them as x, and yt is again 0 or 1. Complete data set could be represented as this. You must be able to understand this. What does it mean? It is a shortcut way to write a big number of examples. For example, we may have 100 examples. In that case, we cannot write this matrix notation consisting of 100 examples. However, we can easily write this very simple strategy, simple way, xt, yt, where t ranges from 1 to n, 1 to 100, mean we have 100 examples in our data set. For a car to be a family car, its price and engine power should be in certain range. Let us say that we have a discriminator function that is described by this family car, right. We call it as a discriminator function. If engine power is less than E1 and less than E2 and greater than E1, and price is greater than P1 and less than P2. So, this formula tells us that if any instance fulfills this condition, that could be categorized as a family car, and any other car that could not fulfill this condition, that is placed as a negative example, as a not family car. So, you can see here we have here the P1, we have here the P2, that is restriction or the range on price, and here we can see that this is the engine power E1 and engine power E2, and we have the range of E1 and E2 as well, and all our positive examples are present in these two ranges. So, in this particular case, this if condition could be our discriminator function, could be our classifier, could be our model. The class of family car is a rectangle in the price engine power space. So, we have this price engine power space. Interestingly, we can learn from here that if we have two features, just like here we have two features, so we will have a space, we will have a plane basically, and if we have three features, we will be working in a plane space, we will be working in space, something like this. Right. So, you can consider that how the space looks like and how the plane looks like. I hope that on this slide you are capable enough to understand that what the model is and how it works. Now, we look toward the hypothesis. What is a hypothesis class? H is a set of solutions for which we choose, from which we choose one. For example, previously on previous slide we have seen that this is the rectangle formed by this formula. So, this is one solution. again you can see two more rectangles that have the same solution, however the values are different. For example, if you look at this red rectangle, it gives you the correct answer. If you look at this blue rectangle, right, this blue rectangle, it gives you the correct answer, but the values of E1, E2, P1, P2 differ for all these two rectangles. It means that we have this one if statement, we may have another if statement, we may have another if statement. So, in current situation we may have three if statements. All these if statements would form a set of hypotheses, a set of rules, a set of models, a set of discriminator functions. So, H is a set of solutions from which we choose one. For example, in our particular case that we are discussing over here, we may have H 1, 2, 3, right, and these 1, 2, 3 are these 1, 2, 3 basically the if statements, right. So, if statement 1, if statement 2 and if statement 3, they form the set of hypotheses. Equation 1 fixes H from which C is drawn. So, this equation fixes one particular formula, one particular discriminator function that we choose to discriminate our examples, our data. The learning algorithm finds some H that belongs to your set of hypotheses. This is one hypothesis that belongs to set of hypotheses, this H specified by particular quadruple. Quadruple means 4 values. Which are these 4 values? P1, P2, E1, E2. You can see that first if statement has different ranges of E1, E and different range of P, whereas if statement 2 would have different range of E and different range of P. Similarly, the statement 3, right. So, based on these 4 values, we approximate C, the exact solution, as closely as possible. Once we choose some particular function, some particular discriminator from the set of hypotheses, we can then estimate for the given X applying this H on that. What does it mean? It means that if we have find out these ranges and then somebody gives us a value X, price and engine power of some car, so we can apply this function, this if statement, this discriminator on this X, and we can find out whether it gives us 0 or 1. So, in that way we would be able to predicting the value of X, and finding the value of these 4 parameters or these 4 values. Basically, this is known as training of our algorithm. This is training, and you can say that this is testing. So, I hope the concepts given in this slide are clear to you people. Empirical error. What is empirical error? Let C of X is a real solution. As previously we have seen, C is a real solution, a classifier that exactly classifies the given instances of car. Let H of X is an estimate done on the basis of classifier experience. This H we have chosen with the help of experience, with the help of looking at the examples. Our algorithm is looking at the examples and finding the values of E1, E2 and P1, P2. So, it has formed some particular function, some particular if statement, some particular model on the basis of classifier experience. There is a big number of family cars that H of X cannot see. This is very interesting. You cannot have all the family cars in your data set present in the world, right. So, you cannot have full population. However, you have a sample set of few examples. Hence, our algorithm, our discriminator has limited experience, and H of X cannot provide 100% correct classification for all car images, right, because our algorithm does not have the knowledge of all possible cars which lie in the family car class. That is why it has limited experience, and due to limited experience it may have error, it may produce the wrong results. Empirical error, it is the proportion of the incorrect predictions made by H of X as compared to C of X. Again, our chosen algorithm may have wrong results, and this set of wrong results is known as the empirical error. Remember that we have chosen this h of x by looking at the examples, and example set is not exhaustive, it does not cover whole of the population. It means that every AI model that you develop for your task would have some error. No AI model is 100% correct. That is why the AI solutions gives you sometimes errors. The error of the hypothesis H given the training example set X could be written as this, as equation 2. How is that? Each instance, each car has a real value associated with it, whether it is a family car or not, and your chosen hypothesis based on the data set will predict whether that is family car or not. So, the prediction may be equal to actual value R, and it may not be equal to actual value R, right. The prediction when it is not equal to the exact value of R mean that it is an error, and we sum up all the errors, which gives you the error set or empirical error for all examples. So, we have previously seen that what is a conditional probability, we can represent this with the help of conditional probability, that error of chosen hypothesis when data is given. So, E given H given X, we have the data, we have formulated H. So, what error would be made by H, right. Let us say that this red line represents our discriminator function. So, this discriminator function may correctly classify the data. You can see here some green points are on the wrong side of this red line, and similarly we have some blue points which are on the wrong side of red line, right. This is a very simple kind of discriminator function. We may have other complex discriminator functions, but still we can minimize the error, but we cannot 100% eliminate the error. So, I hope this thing is clear to you, and again try to understand this point, how we can represent the things as a conditional probability. Hypothesis generalization. Let x1, a data set consisting of 1 to n set of examples, be the training set, and let x2, that ranges from n to infinity, is a future example set. It is very simple. In our experiment, we have only n examples where we can train our discriminator function. However, once it is trained and it is deployed in the industry or in the production environment, so we do not know what the examples would come, and we classify them or we denote them as examples. Basically, it should be n plus 1. The examples ranges from n plus 1 to infinity, all of the examples, those are denoted as future examples. If the chosen hypothesis or the function or the model that is coming from the hypothesis set is chosen hypothesis, how well H hypothesis will correctly classify future examples for x which belongs to x2 and x does not belong to x1. This is known as hypothesis generalization. Again, consider the concept. How well H will correctly classify future examples. A generalization is this, and we have associated 4 concepts. Most specific hypothesis. What is that? The tightest hypothesis, a rectangle that includes only positive examples, is called most specific hypothesis. Here you can see that this S is the most specific hypothesis, this one. And then we have the more general hypothesis, the largest rectangle that we can draw, which only includes the positive examples, that is most general hypothesis. This you can see that this is more general hypothesis. And consistent hypothesis, any hypothesis that lies in between S and G are called the consistent hypothesis. For example, we may have let we have this rectangle. Again it is a correct solution, however it is not equal to S, it is consistent. We may have this, again it is consistent but not equal to S or G. We may have this, right, again it is consistent but not equal to the previous solutions. So, in this way we may have infinite number of solutions and we have to select one among these. Which one should be selected? A general rule is that we should select the general most general hypothesis. Virgin space, set of all hypotheses such that each hypothesis is either equal to or greater than S and less than equal to G, that is called a virgin space, right. मिसाल के तौर पे, for example we can say that VFS that is equal to for example C1 consistent hypothesis 1, C2 consistent hypothesis 2, C3 consistent hypothesis 3, and so on. Each data set may have its own virgin space. That is again an interesting point. It shows that if you get a solution or you train a model on one data set, it is not necessarily that it would work on another data set. So, every data set may have its own virgin space. I hope the concepts given in this slide are clear. Now, we move toward the next slide. Confusion matrix. Confusion matrix is basically a technique, a method to measure the performance of our trained classifier when it is exposed to unseen data set. Let C is a real solution, previously just given over here, this one, that is a real solution, and H is the learned solution that we have learned from the data set. We can see from this example C and H are both consistent, right. Confusion matrix is given as this. For a particular X instance, if our model is trained and we are given with some instance X, it would be a true positive if our consistent solution Cx, which is given by somebody has given us this is a correct solution, for example. So, the exact and the correct solution, it produces it as a positive example in the case of our car, and the learned hypothesis also produces one, that is called true positive, and here you can see that it is a true positive, this one in our confusion matrix. True negative, it means that if in actual given instance X is not family car and our learned hypothesis also tells us that it is not family car, it is a true negative. It means that both time for these two things our algorithm has correctly performed. Then there comes another concept called false positive. It means that in actual X is not family car, but our hypothesis has predicted it as a family car. So, our hypothesis has wrongly, falsely made it a positive example. It is a false positive that lies over here. And the last one is false negative. False negative is that if in actual the given car is a family car, however, our learned hypothesis predicts it as a not family car. So, that is false negative. So, both false type of things given over here, this and this, these are the errors, and these true negative, both trues are correct, no error, right. So, this is no error and this diagonal is error, FP and false negative. So, you can see from here that if this is H and this is C, right, if some instance is given to H, right, and that is negative instance, and our H says that it is positive. Our instance says that it is positive. So, this is false positive. Similarly, if there is some instance which is positive and our H says that it is negative, so it is false negative, and true positive, true negative is very much clear that hypothesis H and C has the same statement about the given example. Data and hypothesis set. Depending upon X, the data set, and H, the hypothesis set, the formulas, there may be several most specific and most general hypotheses which respectively make up the S set and G set. If X changes or H changes, so S and G may change. Okay. So, for example, there are 3 data sets, so we may have 3 S sets, we may have 3 G sets. Each member of the S set is consistent with all the instances, and there is no consistent hypothesis that are more specific. It is very interesting. It means that we may have only one S, we may not have 2 S or 3 S for a given data set, and we may have only one G data set for a given G set for a given data set. We may not have 2 or more G sets. That is very obvious and very clear. The most general and most specific data sets are only one for a given data set. These two make up the boundary sets, and any hypothesis between them is inconsistent and is part of the version space. Again, these two make up the boundary sets, and any hypothesis between them is consistent and is part of the version space. Version space को हम पीछे देख चुके हैं. Version space को हम यूँ लिख सकते हैं, this and this. We may have S, we may have G over here, and we may have all C's, C1 up to C infinity. जितने भी हमारे पास बनते हैं consistent sets, वो सारे के सारे S और G के दरमियान में lie करेंगे. All those sets will lie between these two, S and G. These two make up the boundary sets. Okay. Candidate elimination. An algorithm to discard hypothesis as a new training instance is seen. That is called candidate elimination algorithm. What does that mean? Whenever we see an example, we may find some hypothesis that becomes inconsistent. Then we see another example and we find another hypothesis which is inconsistent, and we keep on eliminating the inconsistent solutions. Finally, when we end up with all the examples, we may have only one solution, the learned hypothesis, that is some Ci. So, try to understand this concept. But it says that, again I repeat, let we have a set of version space that contains, for example, 10 solutions, and we see the first example, we see all the possible hypothesis, and one which is becomes inconsistent, that is eliminated, and if no one becomes inconsistent, so no one is eliminated. We look at another example and we eliminate another one. We look at third example and if we find any inconsistent hypothesis, we eliminate that, and so on. So, in this way we keep on eliminated, and when we are finished with our data set, we are left with the one hypothesis, which is our learned hypothesis. X must be large enough to have minimal or unique S and G. That is very interesting. So, as much as the size of X is concerned, it is very much important. For example, in our data set and in our hypothesis set, we have 10 hypotheses and we have 2 examples. So, at max we would be able to eliminate the 2 inconsistent hypotheses, and there would be 8 remaining. Right. Just give you an example. Want to do a 2-class classification. We have a positive example, that is again I say that price and engine power is here, right. We have drawn this positive example over here. So, to make it, we may have this line to classify it, we may have this line, we may have even this line, we may have this line. So, all these lines are the set of hypotheses that makes up the virgin space. After that, we look at another example that is positive. So, now we would eliminate the hypothesis which becomes inconsistent. You can see that this line is inconsistent. So, we can eliminate this hypothesis. This line is inconsistent. We can eliminate, and we will eliminate this hypothesis. So, rest of these hypotheses, this one line and this one line. Now, we look at another example which is negative, right. So, we cannot have this line as the classifier and we eliminate it because it classifies both positive and negative examples on the same side. We may have this as candidate solution, we may have this as candidate solution, we may have this as candidate solution, right. Now, we look at another example which is negative. So, we are left with these two and this is again eliminated. This is eliminated. So, in this way, as we keep on looking at the examples, we keep on eliminating the hypothesis and finally, we are left with one hypothesis, that is our estimated hypothesis, right. And this figure shows that you may have set of hypotheses, right. Hypothesis 1, for example, this is hypothesis 2, hypothesis 3, 4, 5 and 6, right. And we try to find the best hypothesis by looking at the examples. I hope the concepts in this slide are clear. We move toward the next slide. Boundary margin hypothesis H. For each H belongs to H, हर hypothesis जो कि that belongs to our set H, there is some specific set S and some most general set G. We have looked at this fact in the previous slide. Good practice is to choose H halfway between S and G. That is interesting, right. If we look at this example, right, and we have, let us say that positive and we have negative. So, this is, for example, most specific solution, or most specific solution could be this as well, right. And most general solution you can find somewhere here. This would be most general with respect to it, and this would be most general with respect to it. So, the best practice is that choose the average case, a classifier which is halfway from the most specific and from the most general solution. Similar is the case for our 2D example. We have the red examples, here the negative examples, we have the positive examples, and we have this S most specific set and this most general set. So, C is the actual set, but the set that we want to choose, that should be somewhere in between, in the half distance between these 2 points, right. This. So, we may have this kind of solution. Choosing this kind of solution gives us the best way or to come up with the best solution fastly with little computation, with comparatively less amount of computation. Keep maximum margin between closest positive and negative examples. Now, look at again the concept of maximum margin. What is that? The concept of margin. We have here a negative example, right. If we draw this classifier, it has maximum distance from the negative example. However, it does not have the maximum distance from the positive example. And similarly, if we draw this example, it has the maximum distance, this classifier has the maximum distance from the positive example. However, it has the minimum distance from the negative example. We want to find out a hypothesis which has the maximum distance from both of these two examples, the positive example and the negative example. So, this could only be taken by taking the average or in between distance, right. Now, it has equal amount of distance from positive example and negative example, right. And the theory behind is that the concept behind choosing this kind of maximum margin classifier, we may find the best solution with the minimal computation. An error, that is also called a loss. Error function or the loss function checks two things: whether our new instance is on right side of discriminator and how far it is from S. That is very interesting. It measures. In general, if we only see that whether our new instance is classified correctly or not, it gives us error. However, to measure the distance from the S most specific set, it gives us how bad this error is, right. So, we measure two things. Try to understand that why we measure these two things. Instead of returning 0 or 1, our new hypothesis H will return 0 or 1 along with loss, which is basically this point 2, how much it is away from the exact solution, from most specific solution, right. So, loss would be a numeric quantity, and we need to minimize the loss when we are working with our machine learning algorithms. Doubt: if a prediction by H falls in the boundary between S and G, in such it is a doubt case, and in such cases system rejects the case and decision is referred to as human experts, right. For example, if something is placed over here or placed over here, it is a doubt case, right, and system could not find the exact solution of it. System would reject it and the decision would be referred to the human expert. Learning consistent hypothesis. What is a consistent hypothesis? We have seen that any hypothesis which correctly classifies the given set of data instances is known as consistent hypothesis. Its minimal limit is S and its maximal limit is G, right, that we have seen previously, like this. H, the consistent hypothesis, that it less than or equal to G or it is greater than or equal to S. We have assumed that C is correctly learned hypothesis. C, we have the knowledge about C because it is given by the human expert or somebody who has told that this is the exact answer of the given problem. There may be cases where C is not properly learned. So, before devising H, why C is not properly learned? Because it is due to the human error. We are working with the data sets in our machine learning algorithms, and if data set contains the errors, it means that C is not properly learned. It has some noise, some problem with it. So, before devising H, we need to make sure that our system can learn H. We make sure that data should be correct, data should not be wrong, and H, the set of hypotheses that we are working with, it must contain C or it has enough capacity to learn C. Device model should be capable to perform that task. Okay, look at this point now. H has enough capacity to learn C. What does that mean? If you look at this, we are classifying in 2D space, and the classifier is a linear line, it is a line. We cannot classify in 3-dimensional space using this line. Try to understand this concept. Using this line, we cannot classify in 3D space. It means that our set of hypotheses has no capacity to learn C. This is another problem with our chosen data set and chosen hypothesis set. So, the hypothesis that we are going to work with, we must be sure that the hypotheses are capable to classify, to work with our data. If the chosen hypothesis is not capable to work with our data, we would never be able to find out the real solution, to right solution. Consistent hypothesis cannot be determined with the help of wrongly chosen hypothesis data set. So, try to understand this point. You cannot classify 3D data using a 2D classifier, and there may be other similar situations. Vapnik-Sherwood-Nenquist dimension. Let we have one car example to classify as family car or not car. We have a one example and we want to classify it as family car or not family car. One example can be labeled in 2 raised power 1 ways, right? Either it could be 0 or it could be 1. For n examples, we can label them in 2 raised power n ways, right? Similarly, if we have 2 examples, so we can classify 2 examples as this 0 0 0 1 1 0 1 1. So, 2 examples could be classified in 2 raised power 2 ways, that is 4. And similar is the case if we have 3 examples. So, we can classify them as 0 0 0 0 0 1 and finally 1 1 1. So, it becomes 8 examples. So, 2 raised power 3, that is equal to 8, right. And if we generalize this idea, for n examples we may have 2 raised power n ways to classify them. If some hypothesis H which belongs to the set of hypothesis H classifies the positive and negative examples, we say that H shatters the n examples, right. H classifies n examples, it means H shatters the n examples. This set is capable to shatter the examples. But again, we have H such that H is equal to S less than equal to C I or H, we can put here H I less than equal to G. So, this is our hypothesis set, and all hypothesis set is consistent with our example data. And if we eliminate some hypothesis by looking at a new example, so it means that our H has been modified. H only contains the set of hypotheses which are consistent with our solution. So, we know that what is the concept of shattering. H shatters or classifies the n examples. Vapnik-Sherwood-Nenquist dimension, VC dimension, maximum number of points that can be shattered by H is called the VC dimension, and it gives us the power of the classifier. The maximum the number of points that could be shattered by H, the maximum is the power of H. VC dimension is also called the capacity of H. It is cardinality of largest set that can be shattered. Again the same thing, maximum number of points, cardinality, that is the same. So, we know that what is the VC dimension, the maximum number of points that can be shattered by a set of hypotheses, by all hypotheses we have taken. This is the example of an axis aligned rectangle can shatter 4 points only. Rectangles covering 2 points are shown, right. You can see that this for example is 1, this is a rectangle, it can shatter 2 points. Similarly, other rectangles and other rectangles. Power of classifier, more power, can model more complex classifiers, but might overfit. That is very interesting. If our model is again let me look at the concept. We may need some power P that is suitable for our classification, right. If we design an algorithm that P which has higher power from a suitable hypothesis, it would result in overfit. And if we design a hypothesis with power lower than some suitable power model, it would underfit. So, try to understand this concept, that what is the power of hypothesis. The power should be suitable, and how this becomes suitable, it is taken with the help of VC dimension. More power can model more complex classifier, but might overfit. Less power not going to overfit, but restricted in what it can model. It can not properly model. Restricted mean underfit. The VC dimension is an estimate for the capability of a binary classifier. VC dimension of a line are given like this. For example, we have a line, right, that could, we start from here, that could, and we have 3 points that could classify all the points on one side. It can classify 2 points on one side and 1 point another side. It can classify 1 point another side and rest of the 2 points another side. So, it can shatter 3 points, right, or it can make 3 type of classification. So, type of classification basically becomes a VC dimension. If we take a 4th point, right, that is plus here, so it can be shattered if the data is like this. If we have 5 points like this, it can be shattered. So, it means that the power of the classifier depends on the nature of the data set. For example, if we look at here, we have these 4 points. One line cannot shatter exactly these 4 points. If we have this line, it contains 1 positive example to this side, 2 negative example to the other side, and again 1 positive example to the same side, which is not correct. So, for this data set, our line cannot shatter 4 points. Even it cannot shatter 4 points, right. We cannot find a line that shatters 4 points. But if we have 3 points, our this data set can classify them properly. Let us say that we do not have this example. So, this line can shatter these 3 examples correctly, right. This classifier would be eliminated. So, the power of the classifier depends on the data set that we are working with, and again the concept of overfit, underfit and suitable power is not well defined, or we cannot measure it quantitatively. However, we can have the idea. It is just like a beauty of a person. We cannot say that this person is more beautiful. We can say that this person is more beautiful from the other person. However, we cannot give the points. This person has 5-point beauty and this person has 10-point beauty, and so on. In this example, you can see that illustration of square shattering 3 points. So, this square can shatter 3 points. We have 2 negative examples and we have 1 positive example, for example. So, it can classify them. This can also cannot classify them, because it is having 2 in the same. However, if we draw this over here, again there would be a problem, right. Similarly, you can understand this example. Probably approximate correct learning. We can have absolutely correct hypothesis, that is a rare case, but in most of the cases we can have approximately correct hypothesis. Error probability can be found by some value. We want to be confident in our hypothesis. Hypothesis must be probably correct, not exactly correct, it is probably correct. Let for a given class C, let me look at this figure. We have a given class C which is denoted by this outer rectangle, right, this, and let xi, which is an example, are drawn from some unknown fixed probability distribution p of x. We have already studied about the p of x. Find the number of examples n. Now look at this definition very carefully. We need to find the number of examples n and a hypothesis h which has at most error this. We have this formula. We try to understand this formula now. Probability C delta h, that must be less than epsilon. Epsilon is some error, right. So, what is C delta h? C delta h is the region of the difference between C and h. So, this is h and this is C. So, this green area tells us the region about this. So, this is C delta h, right, and we want that this probability which is less than epsilon, right, it must be, this comes up some value, it must be greater than 1 minus delta, where delta is 1 by 2, less than 1 by 2. Okay. What does that mean? It means that the error, if here is 1 by 2 point, this is error should be less than this, it must be less than half. So, whatever the hypothesis we find and we work with it, so that should be from here up to here, it should not move more than half. This is the probability approximate correct learning, probably approximate correct learning. Again, I summarize this probably approximate correct learning, that if we find for some particular instance of input, the answer, the prediction should lie within the half limit of h and c, it gives us minimal error. If that is above this, so it means that the data we have, which that will have the more probability of the negative example. Again, let we have some car x1. x1, if that is worked out and our hypothesis gives us probability near to this point, near to this line up to half, we can consider about that as a positive example. If that becomes more than 1 by 2 half, so it would be more probable that it is a negative example, right. So, probably approximate correct learning, what does that mean? If that lies between this half range, so that is more probable to be the positive example, and we will classify it as a positive example. That is why we call it as probably approximate learning. So, I hope this concept of probably approximate learning is clear to you people. Probably approximate learning, the error region between C and H, where H is some, let us say that some very specific more tight hypothesis, is the sum of 4 rectangular strips, right. So, if we have, let here, here, and we have here. So, every point that lies in this blue triangle, that is more probable to be a positive example, and every point that lies outside of this example and within C, that is more probable to be negative example. Probability of positive example falling in the strip is at most epsilon, right. In all these steps is epsilon, and if all steps are equal, then epsilon is equal to 4 over 4 epsilon. For example, this is epsilon over 4, Similarly, this is epsilon over 4, right. On this side we have epsilon over 4, on this side we have epsilon over 4. So, all this makes it equal to epsilon, the error that we want to have at max. So, our max error should be within this blue rectangle, it should not be out of this blue rectangle. Note that we count the overlaps in the corners twice, and the total actual error in this case is less than 4 epsilon 4 into epsilon by 4. So, for example, here the one time the epsilon by 4 is counted because of this strip, and again this is second time is counted because of this strip. So, it is counted 2 times. It means that one time counting should be subtracted from it in order to get the correct answer. That is why we say that we count the overlaps in the corners twice, and the total actual corner in this case is less than this. Probability that a randomly drawn example misses this strip is this. That is interesting. If we take some example and that does not lie within this blue rectangle, the lying within the blue rectangle on any side is epsilon by 4, and the probability that that example lies outside of that, that is 1 minus epsilon, of course. The probability that all n independent draws misses the strip is given with the help of this 1 minus epsilon over 4 into n, and 1 minus 4 power epsilon over 4 power n, that must be less than some specific value. If this increases from this specific value, we would classify our given instance as a negative example. If that remains less than epsilon, we will classify it as a positive example. We have the inequality. We know from mathematics that 1 minus x less than equal to e raised power minus x, and if we take the log of both sides, we get this value, right. And rearranging and solving this, I leave it for you people, we get this value. I recommend you to learn it yourself, see how it comes up. So, we have this n greater than equal to 4 over epsilon into log 4 over this delta. G example, what does it shows? It shows that the number of training examples must be greater than this value. At least we should have our data set of this much size. A given point will be misclassified with error probability at most epsilon if we take at least this much number of examples, independent examples from C, and we use the tightest rectangle as our hypothesis H with confidence probability at least 1 by minus lambda. So, we can be confident with this confidence probability about the performance of our H if we have the data set of this size. So, I hope आपको probability approximate correct learning समझ आ गया होगा what a packed learning is.